Coming up next, it's all about Android with me, Jason Howell, Ron Richards, and Win Twit Dow for her first episode of the year. And we actually realized, hey, she's been on a full year. So there's a little bit of celebration about that. But we also talk about the Consumer Electronics Show for pretty much the entire episode because there was a lot of Android news from the show. Motorola's ThinkPhone, kind of leaning heavily into the ThinkPad vibes there. Google had a presence at CES, though there were no roller coasters. Satellite connectivity coming to Android, courtesy of Qualcomm. Nothing Phone 1 makes its US debut for beta testers only, plus your feedback and so much more. Coming up next on All About Android.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is All About Android, episode 612, recorded Tuesday, January 10th, 2023. CES 2023. This episode of All About Android is brought to you by Tanium. Tanium unites operations and security teams with a single platform that identifies where all your IT data is, patches every device you own in seconds, and implements critical security controls, all from a single pane of glass. Are you ready to protect your organization from cyber threats? Learn more at tanium.com/twit. It is time for the Twit Audience Survey. That's right. This is our annual survey that helps us understand our audience. That's you. So we can, hopefully make your listening experience even better. It's only going to take you a couple of minutes. We really appreciate if you do so. So go to twit.tv/survey23 and you can take that, and please don't wait. The last day to take the survey is January 31st. Thanks in advance. Hello and welcome to All About Android. This is your weekly source for latest news, hardware, and apps for the Android faithful. I'm Jason Howell.
And I am Ron Richards.
Mm-hmm.
And I am Huyen Wit. Whoa.
No, you
what
aren't.
What is my name? I'm Huyen Twit Dow, and I have a name and internet this week. So I'm winning at life. My God.
And not only that, but we are celebrating a 1 year of you on the show as a full-time co-host.
That's true.
Woo! Belatedly. I really appreciate
belatedly,
it.
but we could celebrate the whole month. It's okay. It's your time.
I love it.
I mean, January is the month of your birthday, I learned in pre-show.
It is.
Probably not for the first time. I apologize. You've probably mentioned that before, and I acted like I was surprised. But, so that means January is the month of you and the month of you on All About Android. It's amazing.
Oh, I love it. My Twitter, Twitversary? Twitversary?
Twitversary, yeah.
And so in honor of that, when you were going to do every story on the show tonight.
Oh.
In honor of that, we're going to send you to Las Vegas for the Consumer Electronics Show. You're going to cover the show.
You're reporting from Vegas, right?
Yes, Vegas right now. Just ignore the fact that I have the usual office set up. I'm totally in Vegas right now.
No, that's your mobile rig. You're in your hotel room at the Venetian right now, and you wouldn't dare do this show without the same backdrop that you normally have. You take this stuff very seriously.
Yeah, it's important. Consistency is important.
Okay. For the record, none of us went to Vegas. None of us were there for the Consumer Electronics Show, and I'm guessing none of us are disappointed about that fact.
There was one moment on Instagram where I saw something I think Flo posted, or maybe Michael Fisher or somebody posted, and for a glimmer of a moment, I'm like, oh, I'd like to have a meal at a restaurant in Vegas. I had a little nostalgic memory of eating at the Cosmopolitan or wherever it might be. And then, by the way, there's a legendary tiki bar in Vegas. If you're ever there, Frankie's, it's just awesome. But
I'm surprised if there wasn't.
I do not regret not being in Vegas for CES, thankfully.
I mean, there's always, when I think of CES, there's blips of CES that I miss. Because there were a number of years when I was working at CNET, especially in early Twit days, where CES was just a given. It was just okay, after holidays, I know that I'm going to Vegas. We're doing our coverage. And it's not like I had a horrible time in Vegas. It's a slog. Yeah. It's a constant.
It's tough.
Yeah, and you're constantly, moving out to do this shoot. Okay, you got to run across the hall over to there, to blah, 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 and you work your tail off. And then at the very end, you're paid with some sort of illness that you come home and you feel awful.
Well, not to like, dwell on a negative topic, but if I do remember reading an article about the origin of the jump of COVID from China to the United States, and it was isolated to CES.
Right, I remember. Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
there was a lot of question marks around. Like, well, wait a minute, because that was kind of before people were really testing and knowing with any certainty. But there was still kind of a question that was early enough, but late enough, where it was still a question. Like, I'm going here. I hope I don't catch something. It was like everybody knew of this thing called COVID, but we didn't really know what we were in store for. And so, I didn't go that year either. But have you ever been, have you ever gone to the Consumer Electronics Show?
No, I just remember, again, like when you were at CNET and like that was kind of my main way of consuming it. So it was kind of a yearly thing, but it's always been as a kind of like observer from the interwebs. So I've never been, and I don't know when I would ever be comfortable going to a large kind of like consumer trade show ever these days. Yeah. Especially since, we don't know what the C and C, like you said, the C and C or CES was maybe COVID at some point. Yeah, no, I like watching though. But hearing you go there as part of like, the industry and as part of your job sounds kind of like tiring. Actually,
the best way listening to it. The best way to go. I did go one year when I wasn't on the press media side of things. I went the 1 year that I worked for that IoT company, and was there as a company, as a manufacturer, and it was networking, stuff like that. It was, Jason, it was much easier.
Different. Yeah,
right.
Sure.
Much different. Yeah, because you don't have to scramble to look at everything. You set meetings, and of course it's a hustle, and you want to go to this thing, you got to participate in this thing. It's still like, but it wasn't as exhausting as it was being in media side, where you're trying to be everywhere at once and cover everything that you can, like we did. Like you did through your career, like I did when I was at Revision 3. Like it was just, it was definitely a different experience. That's for sure.
Yeah, and different experience, but also sprinkled with a lot of really fun things. Saw really great people going out for, after when the work is done, being able to go out and get some drinks with people that you only see online, and then now you're there and face to face, and those kind of moments, that's the kind of stuff I miss. It's the same thing about Google I/O, and not going for however many years at this point. Hopefully, maybe that changes this year, but we will certainly find out. But before we get into this show that is absolutely filled with consumer electronics show news, we've got, Burke, I don't know if your finger is ready for it. We've got some breaking news. That's right. Oh yeah.
This is the first breaking news of 2023.
That's right.
Way,
I believe.
It's exciting.
Celebrate it.
Love it.
And I'll give you three guesses what it might be, because around the first of every year, this moment happens, and big surprise, it happened again. Samsung has announced their next Galaxy Unpacked event. Woo! It's February 1st. It's a Wednesday. It's going to happen at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern in downtown San Francisco. I missed that detail. So it's going to be in our neck of the woods. It's going to be live streamed on YouTube and on Samsung's website. We talked about it earlier today in our editorial meeting. We'll be doing live coverage. So I think it's going to be me and Leo. We'll keep you posted on how that transpires, if that changes or whatever. But I mean, what are we expecting other than what we always get from Samsung this time of year, which is the next Galaxy S series phone, which this time around would be the 23. So there you go. And a 23 with a stylus on the top tier, so yeah. I'm trying to see if maybe there's any potential of any surprises outside of that. And I'm not really seeing anything. If you've got a Samsung phone, you can expect that you'll be able to trade it up and get a lot of value. Usually Samsung's pretty good about that. So if you are a Samsung fan, your time has come. Dun-dun-dun.
It's that time of year.
That time. Yeah. And speaking of that time of year, it's like we spent like 10 minutes talking about, it's Consumer Electronics Showtime. So why don't we get into the news and start rolling?
I mentioned that I hoped the Samsung event was an opera. What I didn't mention was I hope it's a rock opera.
Rock opera!
Ooh.
Yeah,
There you go.
in our meeting, Burke mentioned Opera as being kind of like the next frontier for Samsung's event. Samsung hasn't been doing the whole like flashy kind of themed thing. Maybe they've learned their lesson. I mean, it's been a number of years since they've done that at this point.
I was going to say probably because it was possibly close to 10 years since they did the Broadway performance and we're still talking about it. And so like my argument would be that would be a reason to do it again or to do something similar to get to at least to move on from that. But I could see why they wouldn't want to go back to that.
No,
world.
it's cool. It was just cringy. It was fun.
But so CES was busy last week for our friends like Florence Ion, who was there, and other folks who were there. But it's busy for us after CES because now we got to recap everything that came out. So this is going to be the All About Android CES edition a week later. And of course, first up is Google, who has been attending CES for several years now. Do you remember the year they had a roller coaster, Jason? Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
Google
actually
did that. Yeah, exactly. Well, so they did have a visible presence at CES this year, and also released some news, which is always great. So first up, they shared some statistics that you may find boring or interesting, up to you. But since 2017, they revealed that FastPair has facilitated 320 million connections, which I don't know how they actually count that.
How do you?
But yeah,
that's a good question.
Yeah, anyway, but additionally, Nearby Share is now available on 3 billion devices, which is pretty amazing. And Cast is supported by more than 3,000 apps, which feels low to me, but okay. And since May 2021, there are 3 times as many active Wear OS devices, which is good for them. They don't state what the number was. You know, there could have been 50 and now there's 150, but still,
Totally.
There's 150 million monthly active Android TV OS devices, which is fascinating. And 7 brands offer cars with Google built in. So they're just, that little smattering of statistics and data really gives you a quick snapshot of the depth and breadth of Google in consumer electronics, right? Because between FastPair is, other accessories working with Android phones, right?
FastPair's great. I love FastPair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Nearby Share is devices connecting each other, showing that connectivity, right? Cast is apps to TV, the living room, that whole kind of experience, right? Android TV OS devices, the living room experience, right? The Wear OS devices, the whole world of wearables and all that sort of stuff. And then of course cars and automotive is a huge thing. So when you look at what is at CES, they curated these statistics to show why Google is there, which I think is smart and interesting.
At the same time, it's just like, here's a big number. Here's another thing that we do, followed by a big number. I don't know. It's like, as I was like compiling this list, I was kind of like, God, I care very little about this because like the number is it's so esoteric. Like, okay, 3 billion devices, that's a lot of devices, but like what do I compare that to? I don't even know. Right. So, anyways, maybe I'm a little jaded, but I was kind of like, okay, cool, big numbers, thanks, Google.
Well, I mean, they want to show. I mean, they
want to show off.
Yeah, they want to show off, which I understand.
Yeah.
But that last stat, which is a low number, but 7 brands offering cars that Google built in, is a nice lead into the fact that actually Flo over at Gizmodo had a great piece covering the Android Auto refresh that is happening, and it's rolling out en masse, and media handoff is coming soon, so that's moving audio from the device to device, depending on where you are, starting with Spotify Connect. But saw a lot of the Android Auto makeover, a lot of really cool in dash, in steering wheel, kind of in screen. You always see the crazy stuff at CES. Yeah. Like the stuff that you won't see actually in products for several years, but
you never see.
Yeah, exactly. But you're seeing, how what the long-term play working with car manufacturers with Android Auto and integrating Google even deeper into cars, which is really, really interesting. So, but I do like the idea of the uninterrupted listening aspect across devices, because I got to say that is one of going from my desktop to my phone to my car, and then like having to press pause and pick it back up again, all that sort of stuff. If they can seamlessly transfer what you're listening to to, depending on what device you're connected to at any point in time. That would be very, very cool. And one of those things that I think that they would explain and tout in a blog post or in an I/O display that would never actually work well for me in practice, much like most of my interactions with Google Home these days. But,
Well,
but still, they're trying. So
I mean, and they mention Spotify and Spotify Connect as part of part of this. And like I have direct experience with that actually working and being kind of cool, right? Like I've got an Android phone. We did buy a Tesla last year before all of the Elon Musk stuff happened. Ask me if we'd buy a Tesla now, we would make a much different choice. But hey, it's the car we bought when we did. And the car is great, by the way. But we enjoy the car. We just don't enjoy all the stuff happening behind the scenes. Anyways, the point of my story is like when I have something on my phone that I'm playing through Spotify, say I'm listening to it in headphones or in the house or whatever, and then I get in the car, the Tesla kind of interface has Spotify built into it. And so it kind of logs in, it detects like this driver just sat down, therefore log into this driver's Spotify account. And the second it does that, it immediately picks up playing whatever I was listening to on my phone. And it does work. And it's actually really cool because I keep expecting to have to do the extra 2 to 3 things to get the thing that I was listening to earlier, like navigate to it and play or whatever, but it just hands it off. And so if that's kind of the comparison and that happens throughout the home in different ways, that's pretty awesome if it happens, if it works seamlessly, the way you expect it to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
So we'll see. But kudos to Flo for covering all the Android Auto stuff at CES. Pretty awesome.
The world famous Florence Ion at Consumer Electronics Show. And
I'm disappointed that there was no weird roller coaster or thing at the Google booth or anything like that. But they, not surprising.
What is so? I mean, especially like journalists. I as a developer and as a consumer, I see that and like, oh, that's cute. Does that? I mean, is that just part of the spectacle? Is that just like table stakes for
the roller coaster thing?
It used to be like
stupid, I mean, maybe I'm being very judgmental, but like the spectacle. Like, does that do anything? Is that just more like?
I'm going to paste.
Pre-pandemic,
I'm pasting a link to the right of the top link of that Google at CES thing. It's a CNBC link, and it gives a walkthrough. This was from 2019, where Google had a roller coaster,
which is the year before the pandemic, right?
Right, exactly. Kind of like,
and Jason, I will cite our good friend Tom Merritt and Veronica Belmont and the Buzz Out Loud days, which I believe came from Buzz Out Loud, but when they dubbed it Spectacle Fest, isn't that an old BOL term that came out of it?
Spectacle Fest is definitely an old BOL term. Yeah, was that related to kind of like what Consumer Electronics Show directly?
Pretty sure that was the origin. I think it was a combination of like talking about E3 and CES and all like the increasing and as you put it, table stakes in terms of how more outlandish can your booth be, and the purpose of it would be to get people talking about your brand, right? And in association with talking about the ridiculous Google Assistant roller coaster ride, it had everyone talking about Google and talking about Google Assistant, right? So
and it's so funny watching this right now, like in the year 2023, where all these tech companies are laying off and cutting budgets and everything, and just looking and just going, wow, just 3 years ago, you had a surplus. Obviously,
they made like it's a small world, like it's a Google world.
Exactly.
It's better than to
that point when it's a small world came from the World's Fair in 1964, which was I believe it's a small world was UNICEF and Pepsi like sponsored kind of like company pavilions. Like Ford Motors had a big that's a lot of the work that Disney did was at the World's Fair to build these attractions for people to talk about the brands, right? So it's an old thing that has happened.
Yeah.
Oh, that is very apt. Do you think like these days, especially like kind of post-pandemic, that there's a balance between wanting to, and I imagine also that if you're working hard and you're hustling to do, journalist and media work at CES, that, getting on the roller coaster and having a good time might just keep you in a good mood or might just keep you interested. But I wonder, what's the balance now? Because this feels a little, this feels extra.
Oh, very extra.
In the today time. So I wonder what the strategy will be going forward for this to kind of keep, as you said, the hype and like maybe like the good, I don't know, perspective or the kind of positive like attitude when kind of, you know, covering a big event like this, and also just being like real, you know what I mean? And not too insane.
I'd like to point out that calling it a roller coaster really is a very far stretch.
It's not a roller coaster. You're right. It's a ride. It's just it's more of a dark. In Disney parlance, this is a dark ride.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
Is that what they call it? A dark ride?
yeah, like Haunted Mansion and Small World are dark rides. Oh. So like they where you get in, you get on a thing and go in.
When you call it a dark ride.
Well, yeah, because it's dark. That's why. So, but yeah. So
yeah, interesting. Well, I mean, none of this is to say that Google didn't do things, you know, didn't have some sort of a presence this year, right? When they,
oh yes, and
they didn't have a roller coaster or whatever you want to call it, but
no, but they got people. I mean, I feel like maybe in 2023, as we are all this kind of, you know, maybe starting to peek back out into the real world, we kind of come out of a phase of 2 to 3 years of everybody trying to figure out, you know, how to exist and socialize online. And I don't know, I feel like I've gotten into internet drama, you know, like this creator did something about this creator and all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of just been like, you know, my little tabloid trash kind of entertainment. And I don't know, I don't really think this is what Google's going for, but you know, Google, it may be to kind of appeal to like the young and at home among us. That's not counting me. I'm gonna be 40 next week. Woo! Has kind of kept their internet drama going. So we talked a lot about Google's insistence and public, you know, I guess, public drama that they've been continuing with Apple over RCS. Well, with this kind of like big return to CES, Google decided to keep that internet drama train going with Apple with a couple of very large ads in an effort to help Apple hashtag get the message. Now, this is, again, all in the vein of trying to convince Apple to adopt RCS. So there was a couple of large billboards, which one of them was kind of interesting. It was kind of like a mock direct messages between Apple and Google and saying, hey, like you should really help people fix the quote pixelated photos and videos. And they even flashed like a bunch of codes that would like help with that. So kind of Google as part of the spectacle to get people talking. I mean, rightfully, no, sweetie, I'm not talking to you. Sorry, I need to disable her when we're doing the show. But, you know, maybe in the vein of, again, kind of keeping the subject of RCS in the public consciousness, they put out a couple of very large ads. And yeah, like just calling out, Google's still calling it Apple at CES and a couple of big billboards about hashtag to get the message about RCS. So, and then of course, they did have a booth. And if you're curious about what it looked like, it was not as nearly fantastic as having a dark ride, but it definitely was super bug droid. So if you, like me, can only, you know, view CES like kind of vicariously through media coverage, but you still kind of want to know what it might be like to visit the Android booth over at CES. 9 to 5 Google did a very thorough walkthrough, so you can kind of see like the fun stuff. And yeah, it definitely feels like Android. Like there's plenty of bug droids, there's plenty of like the Android green, and there were a lot of like fun looking demos and kind of you know, booths to kind of promote and kind of demo a lot of the things that Ron just mentioned. So if you're just curious and you just want to kind of live the moment as if you were at CES and got to go to 9 to 5 Google and check out their booth tour. There's like a slot machine, there's like a big old bug droid swing, and there's a lot of like, you know, little cute ways of Android kind of showing this interconnected Android everywhere world that they're going for. So,
and everybody that worked there, they were wearing white, like plushy jackets, all the same kind of fleecy jackets. There we go, and very white hats. They were very coordinated.
Very coordinated.
Yeah, it's not as much of a spectacle as a roller coaster or a dark train or whatever it's called. Dark ride.
Dark ride.
The dark train.
That sounds like an Ozzy record.
Or a horror movie or something.
Yeah,
Guns N' Roses song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
What a night train.
There
I'm on
we
the
go.
night train.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Bug droid. See, why don't we have that in the studio? A bug droid
That's pretty
swinging
cool.
chair. That's what we need.
Oh, they made them wear white. Oh wait, no, they didn't. Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
The gloves.
Yeah,
the gloves is a little weird.
Everybody's kind of wearing
Well, I
the
guess
same
COVID, right? I don't know.
type
Huh?
thing, or I don't know.
Or it's
They're not wearing
outside,
masks,
and
though.
That's weird. Yeah, they're not
Was it
wearing
chilly
masks.
in Vegas? Yeah.
It's weird. That is weird.
It does sound like attendance was not high. Stacey Higginbotham from This Week in Google, she was not on Twig last week because she was at CES, so she was on Twit this weekend, and they talked extensively about kind of what she saw while she was at CES. And she just said it was really kind of like a sight to behold compared to previous years where there are people just everywhere and you can't escape people. And this year it was just very empty by comparison. So
Well, that's good. That's I guess that's a relief, right? That's good to hear.
a relief if you don't like crowds, maybe not a relief if you're throwing these things and you want to attract
True,
people
yeah.
and you
Yeah.
want a consumer electronics show to continue. I'll be curious to see, like, is this just the new kind of thing for the CES,
Yeah. Yeah, because keep in mind the people who do CES charge people to go. Like that's how they pay for it. So like it is still a business. So yeah.
Scooter X put in chat something that CES, CES group or whatever the Consumer Electronics blah blah, I don't know what they're called, put out and said ended January 8th with a total attendee count of more than 115,000. They say exceeding even the most optimistic projections of the Consumer Technology Association.
What was
PR
the attendance
spin.
before COVID? though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good
Well, it used to be
question.
Like 4,
huge,
5,
right?
6 times that, I'm sure.
Let's see. Attendance 2019. 182,000.
Okay, that's a big
So
Oh, okay.
drop.
and I'm also not surprised that it's
No.
100,000 because
not
like
either.
like we're seeing in my my comic book world, it's been last year was the return to Comic-Con in San Diego and both in New York, and both those drew over 100,000 people. So like people still going. So
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah. Well, we have just a little bit more news before we take a quick break here. Qualcomm put out an announcement during CES that satellite connectivity is going to arrive on Android devices later this year. Qualcomm's kind of version of this called Snapdragon Satellite. They're working with a company, a satellite network provider called Iridium, to pull this off. Capable of two-way messaging, maximum of 140 characters via SMS or over-the-top messaging services like WhatsApp. Smartphones will, of course, have it to be running the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. They will be the first in line to use Snapdragon Satellite. So that would mean then that Google's very own Pixel devices would not support this. So it'll be interesting to see if this becomes a thing that Google champions, because as you may or may not know, Apple has this now satellite connectivity on their current iPhones, and from this day forward, future iPhones will have it too. So that kind of puts this in that kind of area of Apple's competing here and they have this solution and we do not. Now Google's in a position where, Snapdragon phones will have it. What's Google going to do? They're going to have to do something along these lines, and I'm sure they will, but that remains to be seen. Haven't heard about that yet. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that landed.
It's a big phone.
It is a big device there.
Yeah, what is that?
Or a
Is that
very
a
small
phone?
hand. So for our audio listeners, somebody holding the prototype device and it is like, I mean, that looks like the size of like a 7-inch tablet.
it looks
right?
even
it looks
bigger.
like a
Watch
Nexus
this.
7 almost.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Nexus
Yeah.
7 size.
It looks Nexus 7 sized. Yeah, for sure. For reference. Yeah. That's fascinating.
And what are those connectors at the bottom?
Yeah.
The 10, 11, 12, 13, like little. Almost look
I don't really
like
understand
wire,
what I'm looking at, but
Well,
maybe.
the front of that device, I think, is probably this.
Yeah.
yeah.
I
and that looks like a
see.
Nexus 7. Yeah. So
Oh, yeah.
I see. So that's the device.
It can't be a
Okay.
Nexus 7. Could it?
No, it looks like a Nexus
yeah.
7.
No, yeah,
It's, No, I'm not saying it is a Nexus 7, but it in terms of dimensions and size in the hand, it looks
Right.
it looks
does look like
larger than a Pixel Pro, right? Smaller than a 10-inch tablet, right?
Right.
So
Flo wrote this article for Gizmodo. She went out on into the desert where they took journalists to kind of demonstrate this, and it was a very controlled thing with their device. And I don't even think that Flo got hands-on time with it to get a sense of it. It was very much, we show you kind of what things can be. So yeah, the device that you're looking at is obviously not a consumer device. It was just meant to kind of show the technology and what we can all expect someday on our smartphone. So there you go. All right, let's take and that icon right there that the guy's pointing at. See it? Right there. That thing. Or that sensor or whatever. Okay, coming up, we've got some hardware news to check in on, so much, in fact, that it spans 2 blocks. That's coming up. But first, this episode of All About Android is brought to you by Tanium. The industry's approach to cybersecurity, well, it's fundamentally flawed. IT management and security point tools offer only a small piece of the solution that's actually needed to protect your environment. And many of them promise that they can stop all breaches when they simply cannot. Making decisions based on stale data and trying to defend your critical assets from cyber attacks with tools that don't talk to each other, that's no way for IT teams to navigate today's attack surface. So it's time for a different approach. And Tanium says it's time for a convergence of tools, endpoints, and IT operations and security. They have solutions for government entities, for education, financial services, retail, healthcare. You can trust their solutions for every workflow that relies on endpoint data. So you can track down every IT asset that you own instantaneously. They have really fantastic asset discovery and inventory. You can find and fix vulnerabilities at scale in seconds with their risk and compliance management tools. Hunting for sophisticated adversaries in real time, that's possible. Automating operations from discovery to management with their client management tools, and then indexing and monitoring sensitive data globally within seconds because you have access to the sensitive data monitoring tools as well. Tanium protects organizations where other endpoint management and security providers have failed. There's a single platform that you get with Tanium, and that actually helps you identify where all your data is across your entire IT estate. It patches every device you own in seconds, implements critical security controls, all from a single pane of glass, so you aren't going a million different places to solve these problems. Kevin Bush, the vice president of IT at Ring Power Core, says Tanium brings visibility to one screen for our whole team, and if you don't have that kind of visibility, you're not going to be able to sleep at night. So take it from Kevin. Check out Tanium. With real-time data comes real-time impact. If you're ready to unite operations and security teams with a single source of truth and confidently protect your organization from cyber threats, well, it's time you met Tanium. And you can learn more. You can meet Tanium for yourself and learn more at tanium.com/twit, TANIUM. That's tanium.com/twit. And we thank Tanium for their support of All About Android. All right, buckle up. We got a lot of hardware coming at you. Start right now. If I had hardware, I'd throw it at you right now. It's just So when you've got the first one.
Yeah, and we're taking it up to 11 already with the OnePlus 11, which is launching officially in China. And this is the OnePlus 11, no pro branding needed because it has got some pro specs. The OnePlus 11 is coming out with a 6.67 inch, 120 hertz, 2K AMOLED display, that juicy Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chip, 16 gigabytes of RAM, a 5,000 milliamp battery, and 100 watt charging. And OnePlus is continuing its partnership with Hasselblad, and they've got a really kind of sexy, triple camera array that kind of wraps around, and with that really fancy Hasselblad branding. It's just many megapixels of cameras. There's like a 50 megapixel camera, 40 megapixel camera, and I don't know, another large mega. Well, there's too many
megapixels.
Mega megapixels, like 50, 40, and 32 megapixel cameers on that.
16 on the front.
Just so many.
You like
all
your
the
megapixels. This phone has so many megapixels for you.
So many. Mm-hmm.
I
many.
like the look of this phone though.
It's good.
I don't know.
It's good.
What do you guys think of the sundial on the back?
I love it.
Yeah, I mean it's not offensive to look at. I like it. Like what I worry about though is the tabletop thing, right? Like I'm getting really used to the fact that this camera band on my Pixel, extends all the way across, so I don't have that weird little wobble effect when it's on a table and everything. And when I look at that, that's the main thing I think of is like I'm sure the cameras are great and it actually is very pleasing to look at, but it's gonna have a weird wobble. It's just going to have a wobble.
A weird wobble.
Yeah, a weird table wobble. Table wobble.
It's like a table at a restaurant where the one leg.
Yes.
They've got like
wow.
And you know
the
what?
matchbooks underneath it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With a phone like in the case of the phone like this, it's not the end of the world. Like maybe that's nitpicking or whatever, but there are certain people that's going to bug every time it happens, and I'm just kind of one of them. That kind of stuff bugs me.
It sounds like a good business for like leveling cases.
Yeah.
I guess most cases do that anyway, but maybe there's gonna be like a little extra silicone or whatever material is your case of choice on the other side.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They'll fill it in so that it's flush on the back. Probably, if you get a case for these, I'm sure you'll see a lot of that.
TPU, thank you, Brick. Yes, I was thinking of TPU.
TPU,
yes.
yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, nice colors, and it looks like they've at least in this promotional image, they've matched this like, I don't know, is that a green or a teal?
I think it's green. It comes in two colors, a black and a green, so I can only guess that would be green.
They match it with the buds, with the OnePlus buds.
Very attractive.
I might be a sucker for marketing materials, but for our audio listeners, it's a very attractive shot of the phone and the earbuds all in the same color, and it's like it is. I'm after. I don't want to say lying dormant for a while because OnePlus has been around, but not really that notable or whatever. I'm impressed.
I mean, they have a track record with nailing the design aspect, in my opinion. At least for my taste, I always feel like they do a really great job with design.
Right,
and that's carried them for a long time.
And they have been struggling post Carl Pei departure. Right, which is another thing that I feel like we've been talking about them. Like the context of OnePlus has been post Carl Pei, but he left now a while ago, right?
Yeah.
Right? So but there was also like that and like the kind of getting even cozier with Oppo, right? And like the kind of the merging of the two, right? And so like I feel like OnePlus has been going through not an identity crisis, but a little bit of growing pains maybe. And maybe they're coming out of it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And this post-pay plus will be available in more regions outside of China later this year. So if you're interested, you might get your hands on that. I was trying post-pay plus. Does that even
post-pay
make sense?
plus. Try and say that
plus.
10 times.
Yeah, no.
You'll stumble.
Never mind.
Guaranteed.
I tried. Yeah, I fell on my face linguistically. So
It does look nice though.
super nice.
Sure does.
Very stylish looking.
Well, speaking of Carl Pei, we got a little bit of nothing in the news today. I don't know about you, but I was very excited when I got a email in my inbox from the fine folks at Nothing letting me know that the Nothing Phone 1 was coming to the U.S., which is fascinating because it's something we've been waiting for. But hold on, not quite there yet. It's actually coming in the form of a $299 membership to their beta program, which is fascinating. By signing up, I as well as you, if you sign up to the mailing list, were invited to join their beta program for just $299. And as part of signing up for that beta program, you would get the black version of the Nothing Phone 1 with the white glyphs. And it would be running Nothing OS 1.5 and Android 13. But doing so, right, puts you into this beta program and where there's a very extensive FAQ on the page if you go to Nothing's website where you can sign up for this, where they pretty much anticipate every question that I might have had. I don't know about you, Jason, Huynh. I don't know if you guys had the same questions, but very, very extensive. And they do, kind of buyer beware warn you that says the phone ones distributed are for testing purposes, whilst these are final models. Device may not work with all U.S. carriers. Since this is a beta version of the software, users may experience some limitations. And those limitations I found were really interesting in that they basically specified like, well, what does that mean? And it means that like Google Wallet might not work. Netflix might not work. YouTube might not work, because the whole purpose of this is to test their OS and Android 13 with US carriers, and you are signing up to be one of those people to give them feedback and help test with it. What is really, really interesting is that you would think that you're signing up for a membership and you're signing up for a beta and they're going to give you a phone. Well, the beta program is going to end. Do you have to return the device? No, basically the phone is yours. So essentially by buying into this beta membership, you're buying the Nothing Phone 1 for $300, which I feel like is under sale price, right? Wasn't it selling at much higher?
Well, yeah. What was the original selling price? Was it more than that?
I feel like it was like around 500 or so. But so what you're getting is you're getting the Phone 1 Black with 8 gig of memory and 128 gig of storage. So it's the lower end side of the device. And you also get, as they say, an opportunity to claim a Nothing Community Black Dot.
A black dot? What is a black dot?
You might ask, what is a black dot?
Yes, I do.
And I'm reading directly from their website. A black dot is an NFT, a token that is part of Nothing's official Web3 project, Nothing Community Dots. These tokens have been gifted to our earliest supporters, can be used to unlock exclusive spaces on our Discord server. Learn more about Black Dot here, and you can go to dots.nothing.tech for all the information about their Black Dot community dots and that sort of thing. And you get one black dot for getting this. Yeah, and so you would think also what I think is also really interesting is that you would think that they're not positioning this as around like buy the Nothing One phone in the US and like as part of this beta program, but they're positioning it like as a membership, right? Mm-hmm. So then another question, which is a question I had, which is, does my membership give me access to other new beta products? Because here I'm buying this membership to your beta program, and their answer is no, this is strictly for the Phone 1.
So okay, one question, and I'm looking through the Q&A and also researching what it sold for initially. So initially it sold for roughly around $460 converted with a conversion. So yeah, this is definitely less. But so usually what we've seen with betas on Android phones is that it's beta until it's not anymore, and then it comes out of beta, right? Will this ever come out of beta, or is it just eternally beta?
Right, yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it sounds like I feel like I read somewhere that the beta program was running between now and June. Oh,
and then at the on the other side of that, because once you get on the other side of that, then you've got cleared software that you would, I would imagine, get your your wallet support. Get your Netflix and DRM, cleared and everything. So yeah, I don't know. I guess you got to be a real fan to sacrifice like 6 months.
Well, either a real fan or you want to. Here it says, how long does this program last? The Nothing Beta membership program will run until June 30th.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
I would have been really surprised if it was like eternal beta forever.
No, so there's a defined thing. They also specify what carriers it supports. So they say CDMA is not supported, which is not surprising, right? Mm-hmm. So for AT&T, it's supported on the LTE bands 2, 4, 5, 12, 17, 26, 66. 5G not supported. Right? On T-Mobile, LTE bands are supported. 2 5G bands are supported. And on Verizon, LTE bands are supported, no 5G. So 5G, if you're an AT&T and Verizon and you get this, you won't get 5G, right? You'll just be on LTE, and it seems like a limited series of bands. Yeah. and T-Mobile, you'll get a little bit of 5G, right? So like clearly
just a little bit of 5G.
Just a little bit.
Just a taste of 5G, a crumble of 5G.
So
Violet
clearly
crumble.
a velvet crumble. So clearly there's there's a little bit of they're testing the waters here. And I will be honest, I thought about it because $299, that's not a ton of money. I love my ear sticks, right? I want to see what the build quality on the phone is and all that sort of stuff. But when I got to like some apps might not work, like Google Wallet and YouTube, like things I use on a daily basis, I'm like, oh, am I willing to risk that?
Yeah, it's hard.
But this is a precursor to the U.S. market, right? And clearly, like this is an approach. Let's just say this is an approach. Whether or not you want to judge about the NFT and the black dot and all that nonsense, that's something that's already established. Like it's not like they made this for the membership program. Like they're already doing that black dot nonsense already. So I'm willing to look past that. Like if you don't want the NFT, don't claim it. You don't need it.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting choice here. Nothing for sure. So.
Yeah, indeed. Let us know if you decide to buy it and what you think of your black dot once you get it. AAA@twit.tv.
I'm still on the fence. I might, a moment of weakness, I just might pull the trigger just to get my hands on that phone.
$300 isn't bad. It's pretty inexpensive. Samsung, we talked about them a little bit earlier in regards to the Unpacked event, but Samsung had some presence, or at least announcements from CES, namely the A14 series. So this is Samsung's kind of low-end device, right? 9 to 5 Google compares this to OnePlus, which I'll talk about in a second, but $199 for this device in the US. 6.6-inch FHD Plus display, 90 hertz LCD, Android 13, 5,000 milliamp hour battery, 15 watt fast charging. It has a MediaTek Dimensity 700 inside, 4 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of storage. Yes, it has that micro SD card slot. If you want some expanded storage, you can do that there. The triple camera array, as you can see on the back, pretty kind of basic approach. But the interesting thing here is, unlike other low-end devices, Samsung is promising 4 years of security updates for this device. That's 2 years of major OS updates and up to 4 years of security, which for a low-end device, like usually with these low-end devices, you're lucky to get 1, maybe 2. It's just the hardware has less legs to it, right? Like it's actually kind of interesting to hear 4 years, because I'm like, okay, how's this hardware going to be doing in 4 years? Like it's getting updates. Is the phone going to be, as usable as a user might want it to be? OnePlus Nord N300, by comparison, promised 1 major OS update and launched last year a version behind. So basically that OS update is going to catch that device up to where we're at now with Android 13. So I think that's pretty good stuff from Samsung. Again, kind of making a device. What it seems that Samsung is doing is showing more of a commitment to the update cycle and not just on the premium phones. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good example to set for other manufacturers, whether they follow or not. But
agreed.
Yeah. So the Galaxy A14, $199. There you go. All right. Coming up next, we've got, more hardware. That's up next. All right. Motorola at CES announced 30 years of the Lenovo ThinkPad. Either of you used a ThinkPad at any time in your history of computing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was
one time.
early 2000s, pre-moving to San Francisco, working for a hotel company. I was on a Lenovo ThinkPad. It might have been back when it was an IBM ThinkPad.
IBM. I think, last time I used one was IBM. Yeah.
Right.
And I do remember it was a highly sought after laptop when you got your computer from IT. You wanted one of those.
Yes.
And not cheap either.
Yeah.
Yep,
Totally.
they were the hotness.
The little red nub in the middle of the keyboard.
Yep.
Yeah, when I was working at CNET, that was the laptop that they ended up giving me, and I thought it was so cool that I had that laptop. And so apparently ThinkPads have been around for 30 years now. Who would have thunk? And now Motorola is releasing the ThinkPhone. So they're kind of, doing this like collaborative thing to give you serious ThinkPad vibes. Android 13, 4 years of updates, Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 chip, 8 gigs or 12 gigs of RAM, storage options up to 512 gigs, a 6.6-inch OLED display, 5,000 milliamp hour battery, 68 watt wired charging, and 15 watt wireless. But it's built, because of the relationship between ThinkPad and the ThinkPhone, it's built to work with ThinkPad laptops, kind of in a cohesive way. So, it has a red key on the side. It's a multifunction button that you can customize, but it also has this feature called Think to Think, which allows for. Yeah, it totally looks like a ThinkPad in a phone.
Look at that.
It does. It really does. I kind of like that.
Yeah,
it's a little retro feel, right?
Totally. And I mean,
cool.
30 years is working for them. Might as well. It has so this Think to Think has unified clipboard, notifications sync across devices, file drops across devices, a couple of other features, but it also allows for the ThinkPhone to be a wireless webcam for the ThinkPad. That's kind of neat. That's what we're showing right here. That's what Burke just pulled up.
Yeah, so for audio viewers, it's a setup of a ThinkPad with the ThinkPhone next to it and
mounted.
With a little. Is that like a cradle or a stand or whatever that goes into it? Yeah. So
it's a wireless webcam.
Fun fact. I mean, what I find fascinating about this is I didn't know the ThinkPad was still a thing, even at all.
Oh yeah. ThinkPad's still thinking.
Still plugging along. Still thinking.
It's still thinking. It hasn't decided, but it's still thinking. No pricing yet on the ThinkPad, or on the ThinkPhone. But I don't know. I think it's, I think that's kind of smart. I actually, as I'm kind of thinking about it now, I'm kind of surprised they didn't do this sooner. Has there ever been a ThinkPad influenced phone? Like, it's kind of weird that it took this long.
Yeah, it's kind of like who didn't put one and one together at Lenovo.
Yeah. Opportunity.
Oh, it's got the little red power button too.
Right.
Kind of call back to that eraser mouse. So
Totally.
it's really good branding.
It's too bad it doesn't have the red nub. It looked like the Nexus One.
How did that
right at the
not
bottom,
happen?
It's called promotion.
Well, no. Well, so
right.
according,
like they should have been promoting their brand. It's a theme. That's all it is.
So So what's interesting to this is that like I'm looking. I just quickly did the quick Google or whatever. But like Lenovo made phones until 2015, when then the whole Motorola thing happened and they stopped making Lenovo phones to focus on Motorola. Right. Yep. Yeah. So like you're in a situation where it's like they bought an established brand, right, and said, okay, Lenovo is going to be this. Except I have a Lenovo tablet, right? Like they still were active in the Android world. It's so funny how that like this seems like the most obvious thing to do.
Yeah,
and it took the 2013 to happen.
Yeah, 2023.
Do you remember the Le Phone, Jason?
The Le Phone. I remember the name. What was the Le Phone?
That was the Lenovo phone.
Oh.
That's good.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Maybe some at Motorola.
The Le Echo? No, that's different.
Leco.
That's different.
That was Le Echo. Yeah, do you remember that?
I never heard of a Le Phone before.
The Le Phone, as Lenovo smartphones were called in China, offered at a low price point in the Chinese market. The Le Phone benefited from... Yeah.
I was going to say.
Le Phone. Yeah. Oh, one thing I didn't mention about this is it's highly durable. Like it has a high durability rating, mil spec.
That's brilliant.
810H.
As a ThinkPad phone.
That's even better.
Yeah. So good on you, Motorola. I like it.
Is it made out of real carbon fiber, or does it just look like?
Yeah, good question.
Kind of the Razor.
I was just gonna say it kind of has that kind of like old school Razor quality.
Yeah. Yeah, someone at Motorola is just feeling the nostalgia and thinking, you know what? Maybe there's like a 7-year cycle with phones or with tech or something that, why don't we bring back brands that people like? And maybe people in our bracket are like, I really like that thing. I bet a new version of that thing would sell like hotcakes. Yeah. But I'm more excited about the ThinkPad than the Razer. And I have one.
Yeah.
Which I don't use.
Wah, wah.
Wah, wah.
All right. Well, that's the exciting hardware for this block. When you get the not exciting hardware for this
Well, I mean, if you were excited by budget phones, then Chinese manufacturer TCL has launched some new phones for you. And I mean, it is impressive how affordable these phones are. So TCL has released several in their 40 series. You've got the TCL 40R 5G, which unsurprisingly has 5G, and is launching in Europe at a price of about $219 USD. Other regions at a later date, they've got the TCL 40 SE with a 6.75-inch 90Hz display at $169, launching in Europe in Q1, other regions at a later date. And the TCL 408, which is targeted specifically at Europe and Asia. So 219, 169, 129 USD. These are very, very affordable phones. And to go with those, you got the TCL Tab 8 LE, an 8-inch tablet, which, it's not shabby. HD display, quad-core chip, 4080, like a very decent tablet for $159, launching in the US later this month. And okay, so I mean, if you're really looking for a budget phone, TCL's got some options for you. But if you're more of a TV person, TCL has also unveiled a number of Google TVs, and someone, maybe just TCL, is calling them the biggest Google TV brand globally. Who said that, by the way? Was it TCL that said that?
TCL definitely said that. Yeah, I don't know.
They definitely said that. I couldn't find out who else said that.
Can we send our reporters out on the field to confirm this, please? I mean, it makes sense. TCL makes a lot of TVs. They're a really popular brand at this point as far as, say, budget, big scale TVs. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's true.
Yeah, and they've updated both their S and Q series, all of which sport a bezel-less design. You can see it there on the video stream. Really, I mean, very, very decent looking phones and phones, not phones, they're TVs, very decent looking TVs, bezel-less. The S series has, a lot of like good standard TVs with HD, 4K, ranging in sizes from like 32 to 43 to 85 inch. The Q series has a lot of like kind of like the extra little accoutrements aimed towards things like, IMAX, game acceleration, super bright display. So if you're in the market for a Google TV, you might consider what do they call themselves again? The top Google TV brand globally, as they have just updated their line. So there you go. S series and Q series. Take it from TCL.
Hey, who's to argue if they want to declare themselves the top?
They call themselves the biggest.
Maybe the T in TCL stands for top. So
there you go. Mm-hmm.
I do like a bezel-less TV. Those things look sexy.
They are pretty nice. Yeah.
I do. One of the things, going back to like things that we like about CES, is that, and Jason, you probably recall this from your time walking the floor, is the race for the company with the biggest TV.
Oh yeah, every year it's always they're one-upping each other every single year.
Yeah, who has the bigger, kind of crazy TV that you'll never be able to buy or afford,
or the biggest
they'll never be able to manufacture
TV. Yeah. The TV with the best 3D.
And we I mean, we got limited time on the show, like, and like we can't talk about everything, but like to give you a little behind the scenes, there's a lot of back office chatter in our Slack all about Android, making fun of awkward VR setups at CES. We saw a lot of awkward VR going on, but I feel like, Jason, we need, like, in the next week, we need to dig into like see what weird Android stuff was at the show. Like, because I didn't see a lot of prototype, rollable, foldable. Like usually, there's some company with some bizarre origami foldable that we're going to see someday. That
totally.
I didn't see that really pop this year, and they had to have been there. I hope they were there. We just got to find.
What
them,
about that feedback thing?
Well, the feedback was the VR thing. That was the awkward.
Yeah.
There was a awkward VR thing, but
That was the thing that goes over the mouth so
The
that you
mouth,
can talk in VR, but not everybody in the room hears you. It's like it contains your words into
The
a
most
little
awkward thing I've ever seen.
bag
Ever.
on your
oh, it was so bad. It was so bad. But
If you're using VR in a room with other people, I mean, if they're not participating, that's just awkward in general. Like, in what situation are you in a room using VR and there's strange, like, are you on the bus? Or, like, what situation do you not want anyone to hear you speaking to whatever VR experience you're experiencing? I don't know, but it was very funny.
It's very strange.
So maybe, and I don't know what. Well, Jason, you're off next week, so maybe I'll take this task, but we'll do a little follow up CES and we'll do some research as to like the prototypes that are out.
Well,
there. They had to have been there. They had
Flo was on next week. She was
right.
at
Oh, that'll be
CES.
great. Yeah.
So I would be curious to know what
Flo
she
and
has to
Father
say
Roberts.
to that question because, exactly. You're right. Flo and Father Robert were both at CES. They're both on next week.
So there's a tease.
There's probably
for
a reason
section.
why we haven't seen a lot of this. I'm guessing the just CES in general is just not the same show that it was a couple of years ago. When you saw a lot of that stuff. Yeah.
I was just searching for it, and I went to the PC Mag website, and then my processor fan started going because so many dumb ads loaded. So,
that'll teach you.
Jeez. So yeah. But anyway, so that's a tease for next week. Father Robert will be here. Flo will be here. We'll talk about weird CES stuff and get other thoughts they have from CES. But that's going to wrap it up for hardware this week. Up next, Mr. J.R. Raphael, our esteemed member of the team here, is back with another great Android intelligence tip. And this time, if you like tracking things and you like AI, you're going to love this tip. So take it away, J.R.
Good day, one and all. All right, so it's January. We've got a whole new year ahead of us. And I don't know about you, but for me, this is always a perfect time to just step back, really reassess all the strategies you rely on for staying on top of stuff in your day-to-day life. I'm not talking about like resolutions, the sorts of meaningless, overly ambitious promises people love to make this time of year and then promptly forget about 2 minutes later. I'm talking about realistic objectives, things you're actually likely to keep up with and continue focusing on even after these first few weeks of January fly by. Google actually had a pretty nice, if slightly simple system for tracking those sorts of goals right within its Google Calendar app. But, Google being Google, it killed that feature off right before the holidays, late last year. Guess you could say it gave up on its goal of helping us track goals. Yeah, thanks, Google. Fear not, though, because I've got a great replacement for you. It's a crafty little app that connects directly with your existing Android calendar setup and makes managing any and all goals as easy as can be. Allow me to introduce you to a saucy little something called Goalie. It's not about soccer either. Goalie picks up right where the abandoned Google Calendar Goals feature left off. Gives you a really nice, thoughtful framework for thinking through all the ongoing stuff in your life, whatever it is that you've got that you want to accomplish. Now, these aren't tasks per se, like one-time random chores. They're broader, ongoing things that you want to keep doing on a regular basis. Like working out, reading, meditating, maybe even just planning your day. Now, let me give you 3 specific reasons for why I really like Goalie for keeping track of all that sort of stuff. Number 1, it gives you a super simple setup for creating new goals and deciding how often you want them to show up in your calendar. Maybe once a day, twice a week, whatever the case might be. Number 2, it lets you decide exactly what time of day you want those goals to appear in your agenda, or keep it open-ended and let them just get squeezed in wherever you've got the space. And number 3, my favorite part, it automatically inserts your goals into your Google Calendar agenda for you based on all the parameters you pick. No thought, no effort, no extra app to have to keep checking in on over time. Now, Goalie can give you its own notifications if you want, to remind you about upcoming goals, to check in and see how you're coming along, that sort of stuff. It can even keep track of your progress and show you some pretty neat stats about how well you're doing at keeping up with your goals, if you want to go that route. But it's that native Google Calendar integration that really makes Goalie an exceptional tool and a perfect replacement for Google's own killed-off calendar goal system. It's honestly just like a better version of that same thing. It's a really, really nice upgrade for any existing Android calendar setup. Goalie's free to use with an optional upgrade to eliminate ads, get rid of some limitations, and add in a few extra options if you're so inclined. No funky permissions or data collection or anything like that. We'll drop a link to the app's Play Store page into this week's show notes for you, so you can check it out and see what you think. And hey, here's a goal that's easy to achieve. You can learn 3 new and useful tips for your favorite googly gadgets every single week by signing up for my Android Intelligence newsletter. It's completely free for you. Just head over to androidintel.net/twit if you haven't already. You get your first issue and a trio of bonus tips this very moment. That site again is androidintel.net/twit. Hey, it's always a treat to catch up and hang out with y'all here in Twitland. I'll see you in the newsletter, and I'll see you right back here next week.
Nice.
It's a cool one.
I can say that I don't know that I ever used the goals feature of calendar when it was integrated in there. That was one of those features that I think I probably saw in there a handful of times and I'm like, oh, that'd be interesting, but I just never thought to use it. I don't know. Sounds like you didn't, Ron. What about you, Win?
I never did, but I do like this kind of functionality. To-Doist used to have like streaks, like man, I don't know when it was. So, and I'm the kind of person that responds well to gamification, or even just like saying, hey, like here's the thing. Like I'm generally the kind of person that responds well to that. So I'm probably going to install Goalie because I like it, and of course it is January of a new year, perfect time. Excellent recommendation for
I like
January.
how it's like one of those Web 2.0-y kind of name, like goalie, but like you say it like goalie, like a soccer goalie. Like, so that's,
goal!
Goalie.
You hit your goal! Yeah, you can celebrate every time you actually make it. Thank you, JR, JRFL, or Raphael, actually. Thank you, JR. We love the tips that you send in to us and each and every week. So keep it up. Thank you. Up next, we've got some of your feedback. That's up next. AAA at twit.tv, 347-SHOW-AAA. And Win, you have the first email to read.
Yes, and the first email is from Ian Winkler, who has a little question about Wear OS. I have a question about Wear OS. I've had an Android brand smartwatch for a long time. I had the Moto 360, Fossil Sport, and now the Samsung Galaxy 4. One of the features I used a lot was the Remind Me notification linked to a place. For example, I would activate the Google Assistant and say, remind me when I get home to take out the garbage, or something similar. Sure enough, when I got home, my watch would alert me to take out the garbage. Recently, when I tried to make a location-based reminder, I got the message that this feature was no longer available. Any idea why? Or any idea for a workaround? Listeners, since episode 1, maybe zero. Maybe zero?
Maybe.
Wow.
Can't commit.
Maybe.
I feel like I've seen Ian's name before in the past decade. So thank you for listening. So
yeah. I mean, I don't know that we know why it was removed, but it is a bummer because once upon a time, that was like an amazing feature, right? That was like a toutable, Google probably wrote one of their little blog post things about it. Now you can tag a reminder to home. So when you get home, you'll take out the trash. And that seems incredibly useful. I was plugging around and I realized that you can still do this in Google Keep. I don't know how that integrates with your wearable though. But I know in Google Keep, you can create a location-based reminder attached to a note. So that is still possible in that fashion. But I don't think it's possible anymore in Google's Assistant settings or anything like that. And, so then that seems to tie into the watch and why you can't find it there. And who knows why? Google just sometimes likes to kill its darlings, I guess.
Yeah, I think Ron over at Argentica wrote about this in June, and he did mention that Google Routines is still location-based, but it's like a routine. It's really meant for like the whole smart home integration, and I tried it myself. It is not as simple and straight. Don't you just so we've been talking about how Google is like integrating all the things and like ambient computing and Android everywhere and how everything integrates, but something as simple and straightforward as a location-based reminder just gets really difficult and heavy when you try to do it with some of this new stuff. I will say though that something that does work and that does have a really great Wear OS app is Todoist. I didn't have it set up, but Todoist does allow you to do location-based reminders for a task, and they do have, apparently, as we've heard many times in the last year, that they have a great Wear OS app. So it's something to try. I honestly didn't have time to try it with my watch. But yeah, if you don't mind Todoist, or if you're already using Todoist, that could be an option as well. So.
That was one of the like the things I was most excited about the Wear OS watch before I returned it was the Todoist app and like getting back into Todoist, and then I returned the watch and I didn't get into Todoist, but yes, I agree, that is a cool thing.
There we go. June 2022. Google is killing location-based reminders. Family reminders also going away, according to Ron Amadio at Ars Technica. Yeah. Maybe someday we'll convince Ron to come back on the show. It has been literal years since he's been on, and I miss him.
Mrs. Snark.
He's one of those. He's one of the peeps, the people that I see at Google I/O that I'm always like happy to see there, because it's one of those examples of people that like you see online all the time, and then you see them in person, and they're just really cool, and you just kind of hang out, and that's why Google I/O is awesome. So this is my short essay on why I can't wait for Google I/O to return to normal.
I will say, after one of the things of doing the show for as long as we have, and knowing folks like Ron and JR and all the other great, the awesome folks that we get on the show, and the awesome folks that we read all their work, Flow included, stuff like that. It is interesting to see Ron's cynicism or snarkiness kind of like turn a corner these past few years in terms of just like, and the thing is like, and I give him, I love following him on Twitter, and he's one of those people who tells it like he sees it, and I really respect that. But it sometimes borders on old man, get off my lawn, Google, like kind of like. But most of the time he's dead on with it, and that's why I really like that he's not afraid to share. He's not afraid to say whatever everyone else is thinking, or give it that perspective or that reality check, and go, well, wait, hold on, let's not fall for the hype spin here. This is what's really going on, and I like that. As a presence, as a voice in our industry. So Ron's a good egg. I really like him. Yeah,
so. Agreed. I wonder if he like felt his ears tingling. He was like,
maybe.
What's going on?
Well, he's one of the Council of Rons. So I gotta like
that's true. All Rons are cool. So there you go. Jeremy wrote in to say, depending on how MagSafe is implemented in the new spec and by the Android manufacturers, it could speed up charging, with the phone and charger communicating to get the best charging rate. If the phone knows it is connected properly to a MagSafe charger, it can get a higher wattage charge. Being lined up correctly with the coil allows that type of change. That's interesting. I hadn't thought of that, right? Like, is that true? Like, I'm trying to think of like my normal wireless charging pad. I know that I've experienced, I put the phone on and it, there are the times where I luck into it and it lines up perfectly and it lights up and it starts charging. There are also those unfortunate times where I put it on and I realized the next morning that it wasn't lined up properly and it didn't charge. Is there a halfway? Like, no. Is there like, it connects and it gets half as much wattage? So is this accurate?
It's kind of close, or like nothing, or on.
Yeah. So is this? So that's I think my question is. Yeah. Is this possible? Like, can you get like less or more? Or?
Well, like I think they do have like they can be like 90-degree angles, so you can kind of line it up like at a 90, accident or the wrong, Yeah, exactly. Like either
which might change like polarity or something, and
no, I mean you just like yes, the coils have to be in alignment, and the MagSafe thing will just make it perfect. You would just snaps on, it works.
So maybe I'm trying to understand how it snapping into correct place has the potential to make it a faster charge. Like I guess I don't see those two things lining up. Like I can see how it makes a charge.
You can get a partial charge if you're close,
Yeah.
But,
It's something to think about.
I don't do wireless charging, but I do know that that's the way it works, at least.
And I mean, even they were, they mentioned in the article, I can't remember where the article was from, that we talked about this last week. It was XDA. But even they said, like, somewhere down the line, they want to just first get this out, and then they will increase the speeds over time. 15 watts of wireless charging is not very fast. That's kind of like
nothing compared to wired.
Yep. Definitely nothing compared to wired, but also compared to just like the last couple of years of advancements around wired, wireless charging speeds really getting to a really impressive point. 15 watts seems like a trickle, but if it's an overnight charge, who cares? So it just really depends on where it is, I suppose. So thank you for sending in that compelling email, Jeremy. Appreciate it. Sent from your iPhone mini purple, of course, says Jeremy. So there you go.
I do, and that is a testament to the fact that there is a percentage of our listeners who are iOS users, and we salute you.
Certainly there are, and we salute you.
Totally, I respect that as well. You want to be clued into what's going on in the tech space, and no judgment on what phone you use. It's okay.
No judgment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No judgments.
That brings us to our esteemed email of the week. There it is. This is actually an email that came into my personal email. I forwarded to Jason. I was like, we should bring it up. Following up on a conversation from last week. This week's email of the week sender is Scott, who wrote in and picked up the conversation about 2FA that we had around the last pass data breach. And Scott says, your comment about having switched to Google Authenticator made me want to pass along a bit of advice. Use something else. The issue with Google Authenticator is that, unlike other Google data, it is not backed up to your Google account. So if you lose your phone and you haven't been keeping copies of your backup codes for every website, you'll be locked out of those accounts. Ask me how I know. Parentheses, it took months of fighting to get back into my accounts, but I'm still permanently locked out of my Reddit account forever since they have no contingency process to prove your identity. I have switched to Authy, which does have a backup feature, but I also now keep a master document of all my backup codes in a fire safe as well. And Scott, this is a great bit of advice following up from that 2FA conversation that we had. If you do use Google Authenticator, this is absolutely true. And I should have mentioned it last week in terms of using it. I do keep a copy of my backup codes just in case for this very same reason. I think and this is up for debate. And Jason Huynh, I'd love to hear what you think, but like part of me, the use of Authy, which does have a backup feature, like having those authenticator codes available somewhere else slightly worries me. Like I like the fact that Authenticator is isolated to the phone because I know the phone is on my person and only I can access it. But that is taking the assumption that I don't lose my phone, which absolutely could happen, right? It totally could happen. You don't want to be locked out of your accounts. So you do want to make sure that you have those backup codes printed or check out Authy, or there are other 2FA, potential applications that you can use, Okta, like there's other ones that are out there. But I do use Authy for my Twitch account, and so I'm familiar with Authy, but I have everything else in Authenticator. So the Twitch account is for work, so that's why it's through Authy.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, why have different
right? No, I'm not.
ones?
I didn't personally split mine. Yeah, but the work Twitch account is on Authy. So
got it. Yeah, I use Authy. It doesn't bother me that it's backed up somewhere. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you know enough about Google Authenticator to know what you need to do to be sure of the fact that you're okay if you lose your phone, which is a total, concern. That was part of the reason why I ended up going with Authy is, I just didn't want to deal with it. I don't know. Yeah. So much with security is like, you can never be 100% secured. So what kind of looseness do you feel comfortable with? And when you came to this for me, I was like, Authy's, I'm pretty certain I'll be okay, So I just went with Authy.
Yeah, it's like that trade-off of, okay, so I don't have, like if you're suspicious of syncing and backup, then certainly, I don't know, like YubiKey or just not doing 2FA, which doesn't really seem like an option. But yeah, I use Authy as well. I had used Duo for my old work. I have to use Okta for my new work. I have personally chosen Authy because for the same reason, backup is nice. That's my compromise. I'm thus, because everything now is Oh, is it weird that we're like revealing like our personal? I don't know. So
Yeah, I know.
I'm a
Personal security
expert, so it's like, are we just being fools right now? But yeah, that's the thing though. It's making me more. The fact that Authy does have backup and is easier to use for me makes it so that sure, I'll 2FA all the things now until we get passkeys. Like so, it's like trade-offs and personal like level of comfort and risk. So I'm all for Authy.
Yep. See, you can even get the email of the week just by emailing Ron.
Yeah. And kudos to Scott for tracking me down. So good job there. So, but yes, congratulations, Scott. You are the email of the week with a warning around Google Authenticator. So good follow up. So.
Very good. Thank you for sending that, Scott. I'm happy to get you in the show. And thanks to everyone for watching and listening each and every week. This is not the only consumer electronics show content you will hear from us because, like we said, next week I'm going to be out. Wynn's going to be out. So we're going to have Flo on the show with Ron and also the triumphant return of Father Robert Ballester, who, unless anything changes, is going to be sitting right here in the studio. Super bummed to miss him, but it's just the way the schedules all coincided. But so I'm sure you guys are going to spend some time talking about Consumer Electronics Show from the firsthand perspective.
I'm excited
with them. So
yep.
Got that.
Let's pray it's a slow news week.
Yeah, and I mean we had tons of really great email this week. So there's an extra tab in the rundown, Ron, that has some extra emails if you need some extra options. We've got them all backing up there. Wynn, what do you want to leave people with? What do you want people to know?
It's been a wonderful year here being a co-host on AAA. And I was sad to miss y'all last week, but my internet service provider went down.
Yep.
So there's that. And then next week I'm turning 40, so I'm going to be at home celebrating with my fam, but I will be back after that. And yes, you can find Android related stuff I do, usually of the development variety, on my website, randomlytyping.com. And you can find me places at Queen Code Monkey. If you're on Mastodon, I'm at Queen Code Monkey, at mastodon.social. I'm still figuring out if that's where I'm going to live permanently. It's a weird situation right now for all of us. But find me in these places. Queen Code Monkey's probably me.
Right on. Thank you, Wynn, and in advance, happy birthday. The big birthday. The big one. It was one of the big ones. At least that's what they say. For me, it was kind of like whatever. It's just another birthday.
Yeah, I'm kind of there too. Like I was thinking when I was 30, I would really flip out at 40, but I'm actually feeling okay.
Yeah.
So
good. Well, thank you, and happy year. What about you, Ron?
Yeah, just I'm happy that I'm here too. I'm happy Wynn is here. I'm happy everyone's here. Excited for another year of All About Android. But yeah, follow me over on Twitter and Instagram and on Mastodon, RonXO. You can track me down. Just I'm the only RonXO out there, so you can find it. And go check out Scorbit. If you're into pinball, it's in the app is in the Google Play Store. You can keep track of your scores, earn achievements, challenge your friends, find places to play pinball. It's super cool. And check it all out at scorbit.io, where we have a little device that goes inside pinball machines. We're working on a big app update. It's going to be coming out in the next week or so. Let's talk more about that when it comes out. But yeah, developing apps is hard, as we all know and learn. So yeah.
Not just developing apps, developing hardware. And apps.
Well, we did that. I mean, like the hardware is kind of like we got through that hump. The big problem now is not problem, but the big challenge now is just like the app needs work, and we've got all this work to do, and that sort of thing. So yeah, but it's all hard. No matter what, it's all hard.
Yeah. No kidding. I have a huge amount of respect for you being able to pull that off. It's
crazy.
I'm so not coordinated enough to make that happen. Let's see here. Big thanks to J.R. Rayfield once again, Android Intelligence. I'll be doing great things over there, and so happy to have him on board here. Big thanks to Victor behind the scenes, as well as Burke behind the scenes, but also in front of the mic from time to time, as you heard today. So we couldn't do the show without either of you, so thank you for that. You can find me, you can see in my lower third, twit.social/@JasonHowell. You can still find me on Twitter. I'm just way less interacting with Twitter these days. I think I open it like maybe once a day at this point, and I'm okay with it. So I'm just having a lot more fun on Mastodon right now. So twit.social/@JasonHowell.
Did you see I saw Paul Thoreau wrote, and there was an article in The Guardian, but like comparing there was the huge run to Mastodon when all the Twitter nonsense happened in November and December, but then like Mastodon's numbers dropped like 25%.
Oh, did they?
In the past month. Yeah, exactly. Because I think so which is fine. I mean, like you're going to see all those things. It's just nothing, like I know so many great communities, so many great people. There are millions of people on Mastodon. If you like it, go for it. But it's just funny in the macro sense of it, where like, is this going to replace Twitter? It's like, no, it's not going to.
Yeah. For me, I don't know that it necessarily, like I have this grand vision that Mastodon ultimately replaces Twitter, but I like the kind of focused nature of it. It isn't just this sea
Google
of
Plus,
everything.
Google Plus.
Yeah, very
kind
Google
of,
Plus-y.
it
Very
kind of
Google
is
Plus-y.
like that. Yeah. And so it's kind of nice for a change. It's refreshing is what I'm enjoying about it. So. Yep. So there's that. Club Twit, of course, if you like our shows and you want to support us, you will probably notice on a lot of our shows right now, sponsorships are down, and it's just kind of the state of podcasting right now. The state of, the economy right now is just very wacky and weird, and it's impacting podcasting and sponsorships and everything. So we have Club Twit. We launched this it's not like we launched this as a result of the current economy, but we're certainly happy that we have it because it gives you the opportunity to support us directly. And it's really helping us out. So twit.tv/clubtwit, you'll get all of our shows with no ads. That's a bonus. You get exclusive Twit Plus podcast feed content, Stacy's Book Club, Hands on Windows, Hands on Mac. You get all of this extra content, pre and post show stuff put into a feed, so you don't miss that stuff. You get members only Discord, just a lot of fun perks that we give to club members. Twit.tv/clubtwit, $7 a month. And when you do that, it supports us directly. And we can't thank you enough, so thank you for that. But that is it for the news this week. Find our show, All About Android, at twit.tv/AAA. You can find all the ways to subscribe there. And I think that's all the news that's fit to podcast. We'll see you next Tuesday on All About Android. Bye, everybody.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am Ant Pruitt, and I am the host of Hands On Photography here on Twit TV. I know you got yourself a fancy smartphone, you got yourself a fancy camera, but your pictures are still lacking. Can't quite figure out what the heck shutter speed means? Watch my show. I got you covered. Want to know more about just the ISO and exposure triangle in general? Yeah, I got you covered. Or if you got all of that down, you want to get into lighting, making things look better by changing the lights around you. I got you covered on that too. So check us out each and every Thursday here on the network. Go to twit.tv/hop and subscribe today.